Hello everyone and welcome to the channel, and here is my long-term review for the S23 Ultra after using this phone for slightly more than 6 months. I always say that this phone is a beast when it comes to performance, but there are a lot of other things to talk about, and in today's video I'm gonna share with you my experience about everything related to this phone. So let's start with the design and build quality. Right off the bat, the S23 Ultra has a great build quality with a solid metal chassis. The buttons are tactile, the back glass looks and feels premium, and pretty much anything that touches your hand feels solid and durable. But I had a problem with the front glass. I'm shocked by the number of permanent scratches I got on the screen, even though I only used it as my daily driver for a few months to create some videos, and for the rest of the time I used it mainly indoors. The 7 Pro and the 14 Pro Max did relatively better in this matter, keeping in mind that the 7 Pro is my main phone. I also use it without a screen protector, same as the S23 Ultra, and it doesn't look that bad. So if you own one or planning to, just make sure to use a screen protector as soon as possible, but other than this, the rest of the body is in a perfect condition. Now let's talk about the design. First, I'm a big fan of the matte finish and the black color of the S23 Ultra. The phone looks clean, elegant, and minimalistic. In contrast, the metal rail is a fingerprint magnet, and because of its dark color, they are more visible. But who cares, just put a case or a skin and it's gonna be alright. But there are 3 things I didn't like about the design. Number 1, the ergonomics. The boxy design of the S23 Ultra doesn't feel comfortable to hold, and when I put it in my pocket it feels like I have a brick inside, while other phones with curved corners don't trigger this feeling. Number 2, the volume rockers are a bit too high and harder to reach, especially after getting used to the Pixel 7 Pro that has more reachable buttons, but the advantage of the higher buttons is that they are less likely to be covered by the car mobile holder, which is a problem I face with the lower buttons of the Pixel 7 Pro. So it's a kind of a compromise between the comfort and the practicality. Lastly, the phone wobbles on flat surfaces without a case as expected thanks to the camera module, but with the case on, it's not an issue. So this might only impact you if you're gonna use it naked or with a skin. But I have to give Samsung the credit for being able to include the S Pen inside the phone while keeping the dimensions and the weight within average when compared to other flagships with the same display size. So overall, the build quality of the S23 Ultra is great except for the display, as it got scratched way faster than the other 2 phones I own, the 7 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. And I don't remember treating this phone badly to be like this after only 6 months of usage. Design-wise, it's fine as it follows most of the best practices of other flagships, but I didn't like the ergonomics of the S23 Ultra, as it doesn't feel as comfortable to use as other phones with curved corners and the more reachable buttons. Now I'm done with the design and build quality, and let's talk about the display. We all know that Samsung phones have great panels, and the S23 Ultra is no exception. You get the resolution, the refresh rate, and the brightness you would expect, if not even better. And it has a hole punch cutout for minimal distractions. You can also adjust the screen resolution, the white balance, and the color saturation, which gives you the flexibility you would expect from Samsung. So far, everything is great, but again, the boxy design doesn't only impact the ergonomics, but also the display doesn't look as appealing as the ones with curved corners. Take a look at it side by side with my Pixel 7 Pro and you will understand where I'm coming from. But it's a personal preference, so it might not be an issue for you. Secondly, the uneven bezels or the slightly thicker chin at the bottom might annoy some people, but I'm not one of them. Third, the curved display. Usability-wise, it works perfectly without any false touches, but of course the screen protectors will be an issue as you have to pay more to get something like the white stone dome glass, which is also harder to apply, or use a flexible film which doesn't give the same clarity of the tempered glass. So these are the pros and cons of the display, and now let's talk about the performance, and this is where the S23 Ultra shines. Unlike the previous models, this one is impressive when it comes to performance, and it was the winner of my heavy workload test back in March 2023, when compared against the 14 Pro Max and the Pixel 7 Pro. The 14 Pro Max started to lag like crazy after 19 minutes of running 4 heavy tasks simultaneously, and the 7 Pro was no exception, while the S23 Ultra finished the whole test, which is 30 minutes without any issues. So if you didn't watch this video, you can find its link in the description below. That was an extreme test to push all phones to their limits and to give you an idea about the performance and thermal management of these phones. But beside this, in my day-to-day usage, the S23 Ultra gave me an exceptional performance too, without any slowdowns or thermal throttling, even when I used it outdoors in the summer. thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 combined with a great cooling system. In addition to 12GB of RAM, you cannot ask for more. So performance-wise, the S23 Ultra is exceptional, and now let's talk about the battery life. When I used the S23 Ultra on cellular data full day with the 5G set to auto, 120Hz adaptive refresh rate is activated, the screen resolution is 1440p with always on display, I managed to get almost 5 hours of screen on time and 9% battery remaining. The most used apps were YouTube, WhatsApp, Samsung Internet, Chrome, and Waze. The next day, it was a mix between cellular data and Wi-Fi, which is the more common scenario, on the same exact settings, and I managed to get 6 hours of screen on time and 6% battery remaining. For the third day, I switched it to 4G only instead of 5G, used it the whole day on cellular data on the same settings, and I got 6 hours of screen on time with 15% battery remaining, which is not bad. So overall, the battery life was good enough to get me through the day when I mix between Wi-Fi and 5G or on 4G only. But it was average when I used it full day on cellular data with the 5G enabled. Now let's talk about the camera. Overall, the S23 Ultra has a great camera system in terms of capabilities and hardware, but I didn't like the photo processing. The photos are usually over-sharpened, saturated, and warmer than expected. And most of the time, I see a lot of noise in the shadows. Secondly, it suffers from the red lens flares issue, same as the Pixel 7 Pro, noting that both use Samsung sensors. The third issue is the sky banding in HDR photos, which is the circular rings that show around the sun, in case you are not familiar with it. But there are other things that it does really well, like the subject isolation in portraits, which is on point 100% of the time. The HDR performance is great beside the sky banding issue. It takes the best zoomed photos starting 10x onwards. The video's quality and stabilization are much better than previous models, and I was really impressed by the results. In addition to the 250 megapixel camera modes, I didn't find myself using them in my day-to-day usage, but they take extremely sharp and detailed photos in case you need to. The 8K video recording is another powerful feature, but again, I didn't find myself using it because of the file size, plus I don't have a display that can play it back in 8K, but it might be helpful if you have the capable hardware to take advantage out of it. So to sum up, the S23 Ultra has an almost perfect video recording experience, and when it comes to photos, you also get great HDR, subject isolation, and zoom, but there are some noticeable issues as well, like the over-sharpening, the noise in the shadows, the saturated colors, and the sky banding issue. And if Samsung worked on those problems in future software updates, I think the photo quality of this phone will improve a lot. Now it's time for the software. We all know that Samsung phones are feature-packed, so you get things like dual messenger to use the same chatting app twice on the same phone, a lot of lock screen and home screen customizations, themes and icon packs support, and many more. But beside this, the S23 Ultra is built with multitasking in mind. It has a powerful chip that handles anything you throw at it. It has Samsung DeX for desktop mode, split screen and pop-up windows. On top of this, you get the S Pen for taking notes, a screen capture with annotations, some wireless controls, and more. When it comes to the software support, you get 4 years of OS releases and 5 years of security updates, which is the longest in the Android world. So far, everything is great. But as a Pixel user, I didn't like the overall experience of One UI for many reasons. Number one, the buttons size and spacing. Can anyone tell me why a phone with a 6.7 inches display has these tiny notification settings and the clear buttons in the notifications shade? It feels like Samsung designed the software for 5-year-old kids with baby hands. Secondly, why the settings button is too close to the quick panel toggles. I can't tell you how many times I toggled the flashlight before accessing the phone settings. So imagine if the airplane mode toggle was here. Even the app shortcuts are too close to each other, and the list goes on. Number two, the inability to add apps from the search to the home screen using the drag and drop gesture was kinda weird to me. But I have to tap and hold, then tap on add to home, then locate the app in my home screen, then drag it wherever I want, which takes too much time for such a simple thing. Number three, I missed the ability to copy text from the recent apps screen, which is something I use frequently, and also the clipboard pop-up that helps me edit the copied text before sharing if I want. Plus, I can share the text immediately with others without the need to navigate to the app. Number four, the keyboard is not as smart as Gboard in text predictions or voice typing, and the way it animates in the suggestions strip is a bit slow and annoying. I know I can download Gboard on the S23 Ultra, but it doesn't include assistant voice typing, which is only exclusive to Pixel phones. Number 5, I was annoyed by the fact that I have 2 apps of everything. For example, to update Samsung apps, I have to go to Galaxy Store, but to update other apps, I need to go to Google Play Store. Secondly, I have all my passwords saved to my Google account, so I had to go to settings to change the default autofill app from Samsung Pass to Google. Same as Google Chrome and Samsung Internet, and so on. Number 6, the lack of day 1 software updates is a huge downside for me. In August 2023, I got the 5th beta of Android 14 on my Pixel phones, with the launch expected in September. In contrast, the first beta of One UI 6 with Android 14 just got released, and to make it even worse, it's available for specific countries and the S23 models only, so it takes a lot of time to get the new software updates. Finally, some of the features I use daily on my Pixel phones are missing, like Now Playing and assistant voice typing, and if the same feature exists in One UI, Google's version delivers better results, like Samsung's Object Eraser versus Google's Magic Eraser, or Google's Photo Unblur versus Samsung's Remaster Photo. So overall, One UI is a stable operating system with tons of features and customizations, but it has some major drawbacks that I hope Samsung will address in the future. Now let's talk about the basics, and I will start with the biometrics. I got a solid experience with the S23 Ultra thanks to the reliable and fast ultrasonic fingerprint reader, and the Face Unlock did enhance the experience even more. For the haptics, the strength and the precision are great, but I didn't like Samsung's implementation as it misses some of the haptics I enjoy on my Pixel 7 Pro, like the haptics I get when I unlock the device, when I scroll through the recent apps screen, the notifications shade and the app drawer expansion, and more. For the signal strength, Wi-Fi, calls quality, and all these essentials, it was perfect, and I don't have any complaints. Finally, I would like to end this video by talking about the pricing and resale value, which is one of the things that annoyed me the most. I pre-ordered this phone the moment it became available on Samsung's website. I paid 4,800 dirhams for the 256GB model with 12GB of RAM, and that was back in Feb 2023. This month, which is August 2023, the S23 Ultra brand new on Amazon costs 3,227 dirhams, which is more than 1,500 dirhams price drop in just 6 months. Not to mention that I tried to sell this phone online and the best offer I got was 2,200 dirhams, which means if I decided to sell it, I will lose 2,600 dirhams out of the 4,800, which is more than half of its price in just 6 months. I can accept this with a phone like the Pixel 7 Pro because a lot of people don't even know that Google makes smartphones, but why a popular phone like this loses more than half of its value in just 6 months? And when I checked Samsung's website, I found it priced at 4,550 dirhams with a free charger and 1-year Samsung Care Plus, which is still a big price drop in such a short period of time. So I'm not sure why there is a big gap between Amazon and Samsung prices, plus why a popular phone like this can easily lose its value. Now let's sum up everything. This phone is a beast when it comes to performance, the battery life is good, the build quality is great except for the easily scratchable front glass, the display panel itself is also one of the strengths of this phone, the camera is great for video recording, but the photo processing is not the best in my opinion, but if you like Samsung's way, then this is not an issue for you. Software-wise, I didn't like it. Yes, it has tons of features, but the software updates experience is bad, and Samsung's smart features are not on the same level of Google's smart features. And finally, the resale value is far less than my expectations. So these are my final thoughts about the S23 Ultra after using it for the past 6 months. And you are the judge if this phone is for you or you should look somewhere else. Now I'm done with the review and I will be waiting for your comments. But for now, thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.